Details. A tragic incident has occurred off the Mumbai coast when a Navy speedboat collided with a passenger ferry, resulting in the deaths of 14 individuals, which has come under scrutiny. The Navy vessel was undergoing engine trials when it lost control and struck the ferry Neel Kamal near Karanja in Mumbai. The ferry was transporting passengers from the gateway of India to Elephanta Islands. Meanwhile, the Coverup police in Mumbai have contacted both the Indian Navy and the Maharashtra Maritime boat for detailed information regarding the Mumbai boat accident. The Mumbai police is investigating why the Indian Navy conducted trials on a heavily trafficked maritime route and who granted these permissions for the engine trial operation. The police have indicated that they are also considering whether proper protocols were followed during the trial. The Mumbai boat accident has raised serious concerns about the safety protocols, particularly as it has been revealed that the ferry was overloaded with more than 100 passengers despite its capacity of being limited to 84. The Indian Navy also constituted a separate board of inquiry to probe the collision. As per an Indian Navy statement, the speedboat was undergoing engine trials and lost control due to engine malfunction. An FIR has been filed against the driver of the Navy speedboat. The Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita sections invoked in the FIR include those related to causing death by negligence, actions that endanger the personal safety or life of others, rash or negligent driving of a vessel, and acts of mischief that cause wrongful loss of damage to individuals or to the public. The big question is, who believes that there was an engine failure explanation? Or was the speedboat pilot performing stunts? As witnesses and survivors at this point of time are recounting, how can we be operating ferries without life jackets? And at this point of time, if it was not an engine failure, why is there a need for a cover-up? And why should the public not be told the truth? Why should proper inquiry and investigation not happen in the case? Are there people and organizations are at this point of time are trying to be saved, are trying to be protected in wake of this horrible incident that has taken place? Let's start off our conversation. Joining me on the telecast is Captain Sanjay Karve. He is the former Navy officer. Captain Karve, what happened yesterday that has led to the death of so many people? Questions being arisen, eyewitnesses saying that the pilot of the speedboat was performing stunts, he was speeding. The bigger question arises is if there was engine trials that were taking place of a naval speedboat. Number one, why was this activity taking place in a highly trafficked area which is right at the gateway of India?
Medha, you raised a very interesting question. In fact, this is the question which is on mind on everyone's. The area in which that speedboat was taking trials is a highly congested area where you have yachts of Bombay Yachting Club parked. You have the ferries from Gateway of India to Mandwa, Alibag and Elephanta traversing. There is a shipping lane from Mumbai Port Trust to Outer Harbour, and the sea area at that point of place belongs to the Mumbai Port Trust. Now, any such activity which is taking place, to my mind, an approval should have been sought from the Mumbai Port Trust, which no one is talking of. So I assume, I may be totally wrong, but I assume that no approval was sought from Mumbai Port Trust, because last 2 days, Mumbai Port Trust has not come up with any statement saying that they had granted any approval for the Navy to carry out such trials. If you look at the video, till the time of the impact, you see the wake of the speedboat. It is of the same strength. So obviously, the engines were running at full throttle. You would also notice that a couple of seconds before the impact, the crew of the speedboat have made an attempt to turn right. You can see the speedboat turning right, but it was too late. And what we call, on the naval term, the speedboat has hit the ship or the Neel Kamal broadside, which is beam on or side on side. With at high speeds at 20 knots or 25 knots, which is roughly 35 kilometers on land, 35 kilometers maybe no speed. But in water, 35 kilometers is a very high speed, and the impact is going to be very high.
Right.
And if you look at the facial expressions of the people on board, when I say on board is the speedboat, you look at the facial expressions, there is no cause of concern or panic when the boat is heading towards Neel Kamal. If you have an engine problem, or if I have a problem with my rudder system or a steering system, there would be panic. When I say panic means not lack of action, but there would be some sense of urgency. Whereas if you see clearly, everyone is sitting very calm and peacefully. So obviously, there is much more to what meets the eye. Yes, it does not take away from the fact that the ferry was moving around with excess passengers without life jackets. Now, yesterday only, Maharashtra government and the Maritime Board has insisted that every ferry must have a life jacket. The point is, you must make people wear those life jackets.
Right, absolutely.
Having
But
those
you know,
life
this is like common sense. The fact that every single country across the world, whether small or large, whether underdeveloped, developing or developed, there is mandatory for every single passenger who is plying on a vessel which is then going to ply in the waters must wear those life jackets. The fact that there have been life jackets that have not been provided, this is such callousness with which the entire situation has been handled. Is you know, the apathy is something that is shocking. And then the question arises, is human life in our country so cheap? Because that's exactly how it looks like. And the passengers are not even questioning the fact that they have not been provided the life jackets when they are stepping into the ferry. The management does not bother. The person who's actually driving the ferry is not concerned about the safety precautions, protocols to be followed. I'm going to bring in PK Jain. He's a former ADG. PK Jain, again, you know, you know, the questions are being raised on both sides. The ferry administration and their lack of following all sort of protocols for the safety and security of the passengers. But the larger question over here, which is more, you know, shocking and striking, that this is a naval speedboat. The speedboat costs millions and millions of rupees. The fact that an engine trial was taking place over there, the fact that this engine trial was taking place in a highly trafficked area along the Mumbai coast, next to the gateway of India, and then there are eyewitness accounts, because on one hand, the naval forces are releasing these statements. This was quote unquote an engine failure. On the other side, the eyewitnesses are saying that there were these stunts that were being performed by the pilot who was navigating the speedboat. Now, is there an attempt being made to cover up what exactly happened, and what exactly is being covered up over here?
Megha, thank you very much. See, I have been instrumental in purchasing these speedboats for Maharashtra Police way back in 2000, in the wake of 2008 incident, you know, when there was an attack on Mumbai. Now, what happens is that we also had taken trials in the same waters. The speed of the boat was tested. The maneuverability of the speedboat was tested, whether the boat can be maneuvered or not. Now, it is a debatable issue whether the waters are tricky or it is a very highly congested area and all that. Obviously, when the trials are conducted, it is the duty of the people who are on the boat, especially the experts, the boat manufacturer, the engine provider, the Navy officials, to ensure that, you know, when they steer a course, the course should be clear. Now, there's very little possibility of a boat coming in the way. In this case, apparently, what the observers or the people who are witnesses to it, who are calling it stunts, I would not call them stunts. These are maneuvers. They have to see whether the boat is actually able to maneuver at this speed, at this 25 knots, 30 knots, 40 knots. They are trying to maneuver it. Unfortunately, fault lies on both the sides, because a huge trawler can be seen from a distance. I mean, if somebody tries to maneuver a boat very close to that boat, it's not going to succeed. As Captain Karve has just mentioned, he tried to maneuver the boat very close. By that time, it was already too late. He should have seen it coming and maneuvered the boat at the right time. Otherwise, what expertise lies with the concerned sailor? I would say that something is wrong there. At the same time, we always wake up to such suggestions and enforcements only after a tragedy has taken place. So many 15 lives have been lost because of the mistake on the part of the ferry owner also, because they don't keep adequate number of jackets. They whatever jackets are available are in a very tattered condition. So the fault lies on both the sides. It was
Yeah, it
overloaded.
is. It is a
I
fault
think
that lies on
somewhere
both the
the
sides.
all
But at
the
this point of time, because it's the Indian Navy that is in the dock here, the question arises is whether it was an engine failure or it was negligence on the part of the pilot. Again, the same question arises: if if you are doing engine trials of a speedboat or any other vessel that you have bought and you are doing these experiments and testing, why should it be done in a highly trafficked area, in a highly trafficked maritime region? I have with me Varun Singh as well. Varun Singh, let's understand from you about also the question. If at this point of time the Indian Navy officials are saying that this was in fact engine failure, and therefore this collision happened, should the manufacturers of the ferry boat of the navy boat speedboat also be pulled up and made to pay heavy compensation?
I think it would be the most easiest way to shirk the responsibility by calling in the manufacturers or talking
But why
about them
not?
over
Because
here.
when there is an
No,
accident
I
that
said,
happens, and if it's a
Neha,
Mercedes or a BMW, they have to
let me
pay
complete.
millions of
Let me
dollars because they are
complete.
sued. Lawsuits worth millions of dollars are levied against them.
Absolutely. Let me just complete. Why I said it would be the easiest way to shirk the responsibility, because it was the responsibility of those people m- responsible for driving that speedboat to check things before getting into the water. And especially when they were getting into a water, I stay in Mumbai. I have traveled in those ferry boats from Gateway of India to Rivers to other places close by. And it is not the first time that we are seeing such speedboats going in the water. So all the in earlier instances also where we I when you go in these waters, you see such speedboats. They are parked just outside the Gateway of India ka bandar over there, and you can actually see to it that those boats are driven in a way that at most of the times seems dangerous. But you have seen them come so close to the ferry boats earlier also, but they are maneuvered in a way that they go away. This is clearly, if as a common man, there are two experts sitting over here. As a common man, when I see that video, it clearly looks like a stunt being performed, though investigation will reveal what exactly the thing is. But it looks like a stunt being performed.
But again,
And
Captain Sanjeev Karve said that there were these are engine trials that were taking place. Therefore, these
absolutely, but why
maneuvers
would you do
have to
that?
be
See,
conducted. That's why maneuvers have to be conducted. You have to take the speeds to several knots to then check the capacity and the capability of that speedboat. The question arises is why was it being done at such a highly trafficked part of the sea? Arabian Sea. Again, coming back to you, Sanjay Karve, again the question is the Indian Navy shirking responsibility? Are they putting the onus on the engine and the manufacturers of the speedboat, and thereby letting go of all responsibility and accountability they had in making the decisions, in allowing for the speedboat to do its engine trials in that particular area?
Veda, like Jain sir brought out, there are certain protocols which are required to be followed when any testing is carried out, whether at sea, in air, or over land. Now, this water around Mumbai or in and around Gateway of India is controlled by Mumbai Port Trust. The question which I raised earlier itself was an approval taken from Mumbai Port Trust? Is an approval required from Mumbai Port Trust? It is a confined area. This is not an open sea where it is open for navigation. This area is not free for navigation for everyone. There are restrictions and limitations put on everyone. So did the Indian Navy inform the Union at Gateway of India that we are going to carry out speed trials in this confined area? These are the things which need to be investigated first. Interestingly, Maharashtra has got something known as Maharashtra Maritime Board, which was formed by an act. And you will be surprised that the Maritime Board Act does not cover any situation or emergency like this. It only talks of minor ports. So tomorrow, if there is a legal issue, the Maharashtra Maritime Board will very clearly raise their hands and say the act prohibits them from acting or interceding in anything which happens in Mumbai Port Trust. This particular issue, you look at the wake of the speedboat, that is will give you enough indication as to the condition of the engine. My contention is yes, Navy has a problem. The speedboats probably cannot go out in open sea, but they're duty bound to inform all other operators in that area that we are going to carry out trials. And also the captain or the coxswain, like we call, of that small speedboat, he should have very necessarily kept his eyes open about the traffic around him. Everyone who's been in Mumbai for more than a couple of months, he knows that you have regular ferries flying from Gateway of India to Elephanta Caves. Practically every 30 minutes, 5 to 6 ferries are plying on that route. So there's no way one would like to accept this explanation that I did not know that there's a ferry route from Gateway to Elephanta Caves.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Coming back to you, Varun, you were talking about, quote unquote stunts being performed over here, and that should not have been allowed. And how do you, at this point of time, react to the life jackets not being provided to the passengers who were being taken from the Gateway of India on the Mumbai coast all the way to Elephanta Caves?
Absolutely, that was the most heinous crime that can be committed by those people ferrying these boats. But it surprises me that this is a route that has been taken by politicians so on and off. There are multiple politicians who take this route, who take these boats. There are instances where these boats have been used by politicians, sitting MLAs, ex-MLAs, ministers from that area of Raigad who have taken it. But it has always gone in a way that earlier also when there was a fire, we have seen that. I remember 2007, 8 or 9, there were fires reported on boats that ferry passengers from rivers to Gateway of India. And every time, whenever there is an incident, this thing comes up, but there is no one to check it. What happens now is that, especially what Mr. Karve said about the Maritime Board or the Mumbai Port Trust, who allows these people to ferry those boats, why don't they have officers to check this? And why is it the question being raised now? Multiple incidents, multiple events have happened earlier also, and never that why should, as I was trying to say that by blaming only the manufacturer, which would put the blame so easily on them and take away all the responsibility of the Navy or the police or the Maritime Board or the Mumbai Port Trust who are responsible for it. Why is the question not being asked to them?
No,
Why
of
are
course the questions are being asked, and I'm asking very, very pointed questions to the Navy, to the Indian Navy, to the Maritime Port Trust, to the administration and the management of the ferry, and of course the questionable circumstances in which there's an engine trial, speed trial that is taking place, and how could the Indian Navy even order such an act to happen on the waters which are highly trafficked? Coming back to you, PK Jain, now are we going to be trustful of our law and order agencies, of our judiciary, of the highest officials in the Navy to ensure there's a free and fair investigation, inquiry takes place, especially keeping in mind this is the Indian Navy whose reputation is at stake here?
In Jammu and Kashmir, Northeast, everywhere. So it is not that the armed forces personnel are not prosecuted. So there's no reason for this investigation not to be fair. The only thing is that eventually it is an inquiry by the experts which will decide as to whether something was wrong on the part of the Navy taking trial in that area, and whether something went wrong with the engine of the boat, and all those things will have to be looked into. But I'm sure that certainly if an offense is registered, if nothing else, at least the ferry owner and the ferry operators will be certainly held accountable for this on their part, this laxity on their part. of not providing enough number one, overloading, number two, not providing enough number of jackets, and all those things which happened and which caused the deaths of so many people. Navy personnel and the manufacturer here cannot be held accountable alone, for the simple reason that he has brought out an engine. It was the job of the Navy to test that engine, whether it was performing well or not. During that time, whether it actually malfunctioned or not, I think is a matter of inquiry. So that will have to be seen from whatever visuals, whatever audio-visual evidence is available, whatever data they would be having. But if you ask me personally as an investigator, I find it very difficult to ensure all these things, to go into the technical details of these things, because it all happened at the spur of the moment. So whatever little audiovisual footage is available, probably that would be the indicator. See, if the engine would have malfunctioned, the boat would have slowed down. Unless the accelerator got stuck, the boat should have slowed down automatically if the engine was. How can the boat be going at?
No,
keep
you
going
know,
at the
but
same
before
speed
that,
and keep up,
even before we asked the question about how the collision happened, why the collision happened, the big question is, why was the speedboat allowed to navigate the waters which were highly trafficked? That's the big question. That's the first question arises. If that speedboat had not been there, it was not doing the speed trials, if the maneuvers were not happening, obviously the chances of a ferry being struck with such a high speed boat were going to be zero. And this is obviously, you know, keeping aside the point that the passengers were not given the life jackets. That's another aspect to this unfortunate incident that has taken place. Captain Sanjay Karve, again the same question to you. Do you think because it's the Indian Navy that is involved, the inquiry, it is most important, essential that an inquiry takes place in a free and fair manner?
I personally feel that the inquiry would be taken in a free and a fair manner, because fortunately or unfortunately, the entire incident has taken place in public eye. It has been documented and video covered. So there is really nothing where anyone can see or cannot see. And I am 100% certain, like Jain sir said, that no government organization is going to shield their people beyond a certain stage. Like he also brought out, anytime an equipment comes for test, the operator is mentally prepared for a failure to take place. I cannot say that I have been given an equipment to test and it will perform. No, I am mentally prepared that it will not perform. So I am sure that Navy will have its own questions. The investigating team will have its own questions. They will come out with the answers. The only thing is whether the answers are made public or kept within the naval regime or the Ministry of Defense regime or the Port Trust regime. That is a question which one needs to seek and find out.
Okay. On that note, I'm out of time. I thank all of you for joining me on the telecast, and thanks for watching Newsx.